Hello, BookTube. I recently had a technological catastrophe when it comes to making videos for you. I had a mail haul, and I was merrily doing the mail haul, and everything was going just fine. And then I finished it, and I'm doing it on a new phone. And I never thought anything of it. I never thought anything would be a problem. And then when I connected the phone to my MacBook in order to transfer the video and upload it, the MacBook started going crazy and telling me, you need to format this, you need to do this and that, you need to download a piece of equipment first. And I didn't know what was going on. I like the fact that the Apple ecosystem is such that even I can become conversant with it, that even I am no longer faced with the maddening expedient that I used to have to go through with computers back in the bad old days, where if the slightest technical thing happened, I had to just stop what I was doing, everything of what I was doing, and call a young person for technical support, get them to meet me at the library or come over to the house, and sometimes wait days for them to be free from work or family or in town or whatever. I'm very grateful that Apple is different from that I can figure out how to do things with the Apple ecosystem. But in this case, I didn't think fast enough, and I thought, well, if you need to download something, fine. And I agreed. And what happened was that Borg style, somehow my MacBook reformatted my phone to 2 or 3 phones ago. Everything. It reformatted everything. So the Apple Notes, the little note-taking program that I often use, suddenly I had 5 years worth of notes that I had not. I'd assumed they were entirely lost. I'd assumed they were gone when I was updating phones. And suddenly I had a different screensaver and a different lock screen. I had the home screen and lock screen of 5 years ago. Suddenly there were new photos, old photos in the photo album, and all sorts of old apps, and all the new apps that I've fallen in love with since then were not there, had to be re-downloaded. And all of that was irritating, but then I was just about ready. I had my finger hovering on the button to factory reset the whole thing, and I thought, no, wait, don't do that. You've seen at least a few things that are good. You want some of these old photos, and you definitely want all of those old notes. Not they were gone. You can remake this. It'll take you half an hour at most to remake this. So don't factory reset. Just go through and see what you need to change. And I've done that, and it was not a big deal. And all I could do was smile at the huge difference between that response on my part, and not only my response, but what the actual reality would have been even as little as 6 years ago. So there's that. But the one ineradicable negative is that the videos that I had made were all wiped out. There were only old videos left. There was one old BookTube video on there from years ago. And that included a mail haul. The mail haul that I made was gone. And as I've said many times in private and in person, here on videos, you can't redo a mail haul. So I waited a few minutes. That's all you need to do here at Hyde College. If you've flubbed a mail haul, all you have to do is wait a few minutes. You're going to get more mail, and I did. I got a couple more packages, and I have an item from that previous mail haul that I have to show you. Most of the rest of it was 2020 stuff that we will be dealing with down the line anyway. But there's one thing, a 2020 book from coming up in a couple of weeks that I have to show you. So we'll end with that. I've got a couple of packages first to see, and we'll see. We'll see if this thing works. If it doesn't, if it causes all sorts of klaxons to go off, at least this time I'll be forewarned. And I will try to upload these videos directly to YouTube from this phone so they don't get lost. Maybe I should try that anyway. It's possible that this new phone might make that easier. I know of people, I know plenty of YouTubers, not booktubers, but I know plenty of YouTubers who don't ever use their computers for anything. They do the filming, the editing, the finalizing, and the uploading all on their phone. Is that only a matter of the strength of Wi-Fi? I don't have a very good Wi-Fi here. Is that only that, or is it possible that this new phone? I've never tried it. Maybe I can upload straight to YouTube on here. Once upon a time, Chris and Giselle showed me an app called Capture, the Capture app, that formatted and uploaded your videos to YouTube, and did a great job. And apparently, the Capture app is not made anymore. And all the other YouTube uploading apps that I've been able to find that are free, of course, I'm not going to pay for an app, but all the ones that I found that are free are editing apps, and I don't want to edit. I don't want to add and most of them are so thoroughly editing apps But they don't even seem to have an option for not editing. They don't. All I want to do is upload a video that I have made. I am not going to edit footage on you. If I make a mistake, well, then we'll both laugh about it. But so what I need is a version of the Capture app that simply formats my video and uploads it to YouTube, rather than one that wants me to add in special effects and cut ums and ahs. And maybe the YouTube app is the way to do that. I'll experiment with it. But anyway, let's see what this first one is. Okay, this first one is a May 2020 release. It is a memoir. I know that memoirs have a devoted fan base on YouTube or on BookTube. I myself don't tend to like them because the author usually has nothing to say. As harsh as that sounds, if I don't think that I can write an autobiography, then a lot of these 20-somethings, the fact that your grade school classmates picked on you is not sufficient grounds for a memoir. Okay, but this is In the Shadow of the Valley by Bobby Kahn. I'm guessing this is the Appalachian Valley. This has got to be Appalachia. That's what that cover is designed for. Forewarned, but let's see. This is from Little A, which is Amazon. When Bobby Kahn thinks back to her childhood in 1980s Appalachia, okay, she remembers feeling free, running with her younger brother through the remote Kentucky holler where her family lived. I've been in many, many hollers in Pennsylvania and Kentucky, and they are a world apart. They are a world unto themselves. I've been in a couple in Pennsylvania and one in Kentucky where you go back up into the holler and you think, okay, well, I've hit the back of beyond. These people are living off the grid. They're living in tumble-down houses with no electricity, with no running water. They've got outhouses. They've got produce. And you think that you've hit the limit of it, but there's actually, the valley goes, the holler goes on a little. It goes up and on a little further up into the woods, where you will find people who have been living there for generations, long before the Civil War. Living in even more primitive circumstances. Amazing. And who knows what it reflects for the rest of the country. I can't imagine how these people live through the winter. I really can't. But anyway, let's see. What else did she do when she was living free? Wading through creeks, knocking down wasps' nests, climbing into the loft of the barn, and eating sweet blackberries growing along the road to her granny's. But this freedom was fleeting, as Kahn also remembers the darkness that was always threatening to swallow the vast forest paradise around her. There was the OxyContin, the low-paying jobs, the Mountain Dew that rotted her teeth, and her abusive alcoholic father who continued terrorizing his wife and children with his words and his fists. Very quickly, Kahn learned that speaking up for herself would get her nowhere. The only way to avoid her father's physical and emotional rages was to be vigilant and to be quiet. We were not free to speak our minds, she says. Our voices did not belong to us. Okay, well, so it's an Appalachian memoir. It's got a lot of the buzzwords of such things, the pre-Edenic, lapsed society, the OxyContin, the family abuse. We'll see. In cases like this, I've read a few of these, both in explicit memoir form and in the very lightly fictional form. And almost always it comes down to whether or not the author can reclaim the whole thing with writing chops. And often they do, so we will see. What is this next one? Oh, okay. All right. This comes out on December 31st, 2019. I will be long gone. I will not be reading. I will not be noticing books. I will not be doing mail. I will not be making videos. December 31st, 2019. Well, I've made a sort of an informal rule. So in my mind, nobody really cares. I've made a sort of an informal rule that if 2020 commences as normal, what I will do is spend the first week reviewing the last few books from 2019. I don't want to be one of those book section editors who just fetishizes the new year and draws a hard, fast no man's land between it and 2019. So I could easily review this book in the first week of the new year. This is a romance novel, so I'm extra tempted to. And this is by Olivia Drake. This is a book in the Unlikely Duchesses series, and it is called Forever My Duke. Look at the pants on him, huh? Let's see here. Hadrian Ames, the Duke of Clayton, I'm assuming that's him, needs a bride. He certainly doesn't need any quad work, but he needs a bride. He even has the perfect one picked out. That is, until he meets the lovely, free-spirited Natalie Fanshawe. She's the opposite of what a man of high rank should desire in a wife, an outspoken American who has never set foot in a London ballroom. But Natalie doesn't have time to be swept off her feet by the handsome Duke who must be a spoiled scoundrel like every other British lord. And she couldn't care less about Hadrian's title. After all, it's not as if he actually worked to attain his wealth and status. He surely can't understand what it's like to be a busy woman planning to open a school while trying to reunite a 6-year-old orphan with his English relatives. Nevertheless, Hadrian launches his campaign to win her heart. Can the utterly delightful American beauty ever find a way to love him despite his being a duke? Very nice. Very nice. And this is the book before this. The first book in this series was The Duke I Once Knew, which I believe I have. I think I read it. I think I liked it. We've been looking at, this is a Regency romance, keep in mind, a kind of Regency romance. And I wonder if it even has a date. A lot of them don't anymore. They just, no, it won't have a date. But it will be in the Regency period, more or less. We've been looking at older style Regency romances on this channel, much to your dismay. And you can start to see patterns. And some of the patterns hold true no matter whether the book was written in 1979 or 2019. And this is one of them, where the two, the man and the woman seem to be completely dedicatedly unmatched, or where one thinks he desperately needs the other and she does not think she desperately needs him. And the climax of the book, although not the climax of the romance, that will happen on page 5, but the climax of the book, now as then, is that they have a electrifying moment where they recognize that they desperately need each other. The climax of the book is still that the two fall in love. And that is always fun. That makes contemporary, if you want to call it contemporary Regency romance, is still my favorite sub-kind of romance. And this also touches on an annoyance that Steve has had many times in his life, where some people that I have talked to, who maybe look at my books, the books on my shelves, or maybe hear me talk on the subject of, for instance, the British nobility. Some people, mostly Americans, will immediately spout what we read in that pub sheet, which is, it's too bad these people don't have to work for a living. I've even heard this said about the Queen and the royal family. And I always want to say there's no use in doing it in America, but I always want to say, actually, I would get that opinion from a lot of people in the UK as well. I always want to tell these people, you're 25 and you're in fine health. The Queen is 525. I'd like to see you work a normal day of hers. I'd like to see what would happen if you did that even once, much less all the time. What about the Prince of Wales? The Prince of Wales is almost 80. Try working his schedule for 1 month before you say that he does nothing for a living. Although it's been my good pleasure to know a couple of English dukes, and I have to say they didn't work that hard. Neither one of them. But you never know. You never know. Hadrian might be different. So this comes out on the very last. It's the pub date is the very last day of the year. I don't think that St. Martin's is going to be hard and fast about that. This could be out in your bookstores already. But either way, this could easily be one of my exceptions. I think I will make a week of exceptions if I come back, and if I come back to reviewing. I think I'll make a week of exceptions. Where we look at 2019. In fact, I don't even have to make exceptions. I could do a new 2020 book and a 2019 book every day. I could do 2 reviews every day. The beauty of Open Letters Review, the venue, for those of you who don't know what I'm talking about, I am one of the editors of an online literary journal called Open Letters Review, and we have a very good masthead, including a few booktubers that you probably know and like, and we punch above our weight in terms of critical notice. For a number of different reasons, not only because Open Letters Review is the inheritor of Open Letters Monthly. It's the new iteration of Open Letters Monthly, and so we're riding on 10 years of hard-earned reputation, but also because of that masthead. because we have Britta Bowler is at the top of the masthead. She's a published author in a few different languages, and a working author, someone who continues to get published. And also at the top of that list is myself and Sam Sachs, and we are two of the only remaining full-time professional book critics in the country. No teaching gigs, no subsidized elsewhere, no book contracts, no nothing like that. All we do is read and write about books, and have both of us have been doing that for a very long time in a lot of different places. So a combination of those factors plus the quality of the work that we do. Oh man, I'm just looking across the room and look what I saw. The Duke I Once Knew, Olivia Drake. This is the first in the Unlikely Duchess series. How wonderful. Okay, I'm going to leave this out. It's a total chance. Anyway, the point I was trying to make is that I was talking about Open Letters Review, which is an online literary journal. We do new reviews of new releases. We do only reviews of new releases. Thankfully, we do not do older releases unless they're a new edition, and we don't do literary essays or profiles or interviews or any kind, just new releases, just books. And I don't operate under the assumption with Open Letters Review, I don't operate under the assumption that anyone is bookmarking Open Letters Review. I think that's a 1990s way to look at things. I think the way people learn about new material, whether it's in a legacy magazine or published online, is social media. I think that's how people know it, is that they find a link in their social media. And they follow that link, and then they either read the piece if it's not paywalled, or they don't read it if it is paywalled. And that's the assumption that I go on, is that somebody will either find Open Letters Review through search engine optimization, or they will find it because they saw it posted on their social media. Which means that I don't have to worry about running 2 reviews in one day. Right? Or 3 reviews in one day if I wanted to do that. I don't have to worry about that. It's the link to each piece that matters. But anyway, those were the 2 books that we got today. One from 2020, In the Shadow of the Valley, an Appalachian memoir, and the other, Forever My Duke, by Olivia Drake, which is the very last day of 2019. But then there's another book that I got. It was the last book I opened during the mail haul that I accidentally borged out of existence, but I have to show it to you. Because after a mail haul of things like this, worthy, slim 2020 productions like this, I got this. The Essential Works of Thomas More, in a gigantic, gorgeous, naked hardcover from Yale. It is Yale, yes, yeah. This is edited by Gerald Wegemer and Stephen Smith, and it is beautiful, just beautiful. The end papers are London, but look at this. Look at the frontispiece. Look, that is just lovely, and it's heavily illustrated, and it's also heavily annotated. I don't know if I can make this out. But all the pages are heavily annotated, and it is a huge selection of the writings of Thomas More in new translations. So you've got letters, you've got a lot of his liturgical writings, you've got Utopia in its entirety, you have his History of Richard III, all sorts of scholarly apparatus, notes, and an introduction. It's an amazing, amazing thing to find this when I wasn't expecting it. I was blown away. It's $100, and I don't know if I have the date. Yes, January 7th. This comes out right at the beginning of the new year. So save your book coupons. Save your book vouchers, because if you're of a mind to have this, $100 is a lot of money. And in that video, the one that I borged out of existence, I asked the fellow members of the OGBG, Todd and Mark and Jason, but also the rest of you, don't I remember Mentor Classics doing a little paperback, a mass market paperback volume of the selected writings of Thomas More? Don't I remember that? They did one for Hobbes and Thomas Paine and Erasmus. Didn't they do one for Thomas More? I could swear that I remember that. And that I had it once upon a time. And I would want to know what's in that book. I would want to know whether or not a lot of the stuff in here is receiving its first English language translation for a general audience, or whether a lot of it appeared in that book and whatnot. I wish that I still had that volume if it existed. I could swear that I remember that. But anyway, I had to show you this because this is cannot be allowed to just sink in a mail haul that was lost. But anyway, that is the mail. That I only had to wait a little while to get you some new mail, and I'm glad I did, because we had a romance and Thomas More and a Kentucky Holler, a world You have to see to believe. I don't advise it. Many of the haulers that I visited in Kentucky and in Pennsylvania and elsewhere were not friendly to outsiders. You're winding up that road. You're going into a place where you clearly are not meant to be. You have to want to go there. You can't get there even by accident. People that are in those areas are wonderful, warm-hearted hosts, but they are wary of outsiders. So I don't advise it. I'm not saying you'll get a deliverance moment, but you might get met with hostility. The only reason that I was not met with hostility is one that you can see coming a mile away. All of these places, all of these haulers are vigorously guarded by nearly feral dogs, by dogs who belong to the family, but they spend all day, every day outside, and their goal, they're as suspicious of outsiders as anybody in the houses are, except for yours truly. For yours truly, they came charging down the road, growling and barking. Got to 10 feet away and then started shivering all over. I want to ram my nose into your face, and did. and that's viscerally trustful. Whether it's a hauler in Kentucky or a small village in Nairobi, that's viscerally trustful. A person whose dog does that is going to trust the person they do it to. So I don't advise it for you, but I'm glad that we did this. I waited. We got some more mail. There might be more mail today if I feel up to it. We will look at that as well. But in the meantime, I'm going to wrap this up and try to upload it. Dun, dun, dun. We'll see if it works. Thank you, BookTube.